All right, y'all, we're going to do cam timing on a 2015 Kawasaki Teryx with a 783cc V-twin. I believe it's very similar process to like the Brute Force 750s and the older Teryx 750s. The 783 they actually call the Teryx 800, just as a little side note. So this is the V-twin here. We have the rear cylinder, front cylinder here. So just as a reference point, motor actually sits in between the driver and passenger. This is the rear of the motor. That's the front. So first thing you want to do is you want to take your crankshaft, and you have this keyway slot right here. You want to align that with this casting mark in the block. You want to do is get that as close as possible. Okay, the next thing you're going to do, I also took some engine assembly lube, placed it in the camshaft slots for on both of these cylinder heads for both cams. Help a little bit. So again, first thing we're going to do is start with the rear camshaft, and some of the parts we're going to be using. We're going to use the intermediate sprocket, which is here. You can see it's got a mark at the top there. That's very important. That's going to be used. Have the intermediate chain. We're going to have the rear cam, which is here, and rear chain. And if you'll notice on the rear camshaft, there's an actual groove right there where my thumb's at on that piece, whereas the front camshaft, where my thumb's at, does not have a groove. So it's important not to get them mixed up. And this is your intermediate shaft. So, very first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by trying to put the camshaft in and feed the timing chain down through there, down into the block. So I'm going to set the phone up here. Again. Now, on the camshafts, each of the camshafts, if you'll look, let it focus on these weights. You actually have marks on each side of the weight, here and here. And then if you can see, there's an up arrow. So what that references is these lines need to run parallel with the surface of the cylinder head. In other words, straight across here. And the arrow needs to be 90 degrees pointing straight up from the cylinder head. So that is the other part of aligning your timing. I'm gonna drop the chain in here. Everything has already been cleaned up. This whole process is being done because I have several other videos on doing the bevel gear, and it was a pain in the ever-loving butt because you have to take everything apart here. So we're going to drop that in. Again, get those marks as close to perfect as you can. All right. Then, intermediate sprocket. The little dot goes out. It's going to go up here on the intermediate shaft. Now that dot needs to align with this mark right here. Let me get something better to point with that mark. So when that sprocket's in place, that sprocket needs to, that dot right there needs to be in line with that mark. Which again, when you look up here, your marks need to be pretty much level with the surface of the head and that arrow pointing up. If not, it's gonna be bad business. So I'm gonna pause this, and we're gonna get that going. One of the things we'll have to do as well is we're going to have to feed the intermediate chain as well on the outside, the larger sprocket. The cam chain, the rear cam chain, actually goes on small end. And while doing so, we're going to have to run the intermediate shaft from the back side of the motor. Let me spin this around so you can see what we're talking about. So again, that intermediate shaft there, it's going to go this end first. Now this is on your clutch side. Let me get out the light. You can see I already got the front timing chain down in there. But anyway, it's going to feed through that hole all the way through the other side. But that's what I do. So I'm gonna put this down. Actually, we're gonna keep recording. Edit the video, make it shorter. But it is a pain in the butt to get all this lined up. I'll go ahead and start back over here. At least get it started in here. We'll pull this chain kind of up out the way. When you're doing this chain on the, especially on that front cylinder, gravity is not your friend on this one because of the angle of the cylinder head. So because of that, I use my little magnetic tool, and it helps quite a bit. So you can kind of see I've got the end of the shaft just kind of sitting there. And on this sprocket, the good thing is you can see, let that focus. You can definitely see there's a wide section right here that matches that shaft. So it'll help. Come on, focus. There you go. Again, there's kind of a wide section on the grooves. All right. Let the fun begin. Again, when I'm doing this, all I'm trying to do, I'm making sure that that camshaft up there stays in its location. Because if not, it's not going to work. And if your motor does start, if it is able to actually start and it's out of time, you'll probably end up with a bad day because, see, looking at that, damn, are we on? Nope, we are a tooth off. So let's see what we got here. Okay, I believe we're on the money. So you got another thing I didn't point out. There's actually 2 cogs on this crankshaft nose, or 2 gears. The inner one is going to be for your intermediate chain. This outer one is actually going to come down here and drive your oil pump sprocket, which is not there yet. So we're going to see if we can set this bad boy on here. Okay. I'm holding that cam in flat, and it looks like we're marked. Looks like we're right. So now I'm gonna come back here. See if I can get this down. Again, all I'm doing, I'm just trying to line this shaft in the right. It can only go one way. It's just a pain in the butt trying to get it stabbed. does roll on needle bearings, so I'm trying to be careful. I'm gonna try to get it oriented. There's just not want to go yet. Having hell, y'all. Man, okay. I'm gonna check my camshaft, check my dot. Everything looks good. So if you can see, that dot is in line with that mark. And if it's one tooth off, you will notice. I mean, it don't look like it's 100% lined up, but if it's a tooth off, you will know. Same thing here. If this cam is one tooth off, you're gonna know that those marks are not there again. So you got your 2 on each side, plus your up arrow. And when I check this, I put the cam, I hold it down because it will. Right now it kind of bobbles around. And notice when we're doing this, these lobes are actually on the flat spot, not the flat, but the low side of the lobe. In other words, there's no lift on intake or exhaust. So we got that there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn this. And we're going to get this chain on this gear in here. So I'm going to push, without knocking the gear off the other side, I'm going to push that intermediate shaft all the way in that way towards the timing chain side of the motor. See if I can get my little tool here and see how I got our chain there. Makes it a lot easier. Sorry about my rooster out there. All right. we're there on that. That's on mark. That's set up in there. Give you a little look-see. Okay. Rotate back to this side. All right, we got that. We got our chains in place. Everything's looking good. Things marked up. So now what we're going to do is we have this little retainer here. It's called the intermediate shaft retainer. Got a couple Allen head machine screws. If you'll notice, there is this contraption, this little tab goes a certain way. In the very center of that, there's a small mark, a dot right in the center that faces outward. It's right there, right at the tip of my finger. So again, that faces out and kind of get my, no, didn't need it that time, I don't guess. Maybe we do need it. Okay, magnet, problem with magnet catches everything. So that'll hold down. Nope. Oh yeah, we got that, I'm tripping. I didn't put my C-clip on. There we go. Let me get the C-clip on. That's what we should have done a minute ago. Get the right size. Okay, just make sure that's on. Okay. Get back down here. Again, make sure the dot is facing out. Okay. Now we got that. Let me get these guys started here. There's a little groove in that shaft I should have showed you that metal retainer or tab fits into. That'll keep the intermediate shaft from flopping back and forth. I'm not going to do all this on video, but you torque these to about 7 foot-pounds. I'm not going to do that. All right, okay. So we've got that in place. Next thing we want to do is we're going to start installing our chain guides. Get those going. You can see this one here. It's got a little mark at the top. That goes up. And you can see it's kind of got a lip on it that sits over the chain. Go ahead and get these started. You probably could force it the other way with the other end down, or that top end down. but that little tab kind of prevents it. Like I say, you probably could force it, but it's obvious that it goes up. Okay. Again, I'm not torquing any of this down yet. Those same thing, those are about 7 or so foot-pounds. So next we're gonna get our other guide. This one here has a washer on the outside. Just gonna sit right here. And that one actually has a very small C-clip, or circlip, whatever you want to call it. By the way, these are supposed to be new parts. I didn't get that. I didn't do that though. Hopefully it don't backfire on me. Just like to double check. Yeah, it's on there. Okay. Now for intermediate chain tensioner. So what I did, let this get in focus. You have to push down on this piece. You have to push down on that with your thumb and then push the plunger in. Once you push the plunger all the way in, there's a hole on this side of the plunger, and I took a staple, ground it down so it fit in that hole. You can use some wire or what have you, but that staple's in there. I actually used my vise to compress this just as easier, and I stuck that staple in there. It's sitting in there. Once we bolt this down, we're gonna release it and pull that staple out and make sure you got both pieces. You don't want any of that metal floating around in there. So that sucker's gonna go right here. Well, not that way. So plunger in, the large end towards the guide. Seem to be all thumbs today, y'all. I'm gonna snug these because I am gonna release that pressure. Same thing, these are about 7 foot-pounds. Before I button all this up, I'm gonna come back. So again, I'm gonna kind of push. Once I got it pushed, I'm gonna pull it out. There we go. I just put pressure on that. There's my little staple I had ground down with the bench grinder. All right, so thing will poke you too. Anyway, better focus. So that, for the most part, is the front camshaft. Again, just to recap, get your marks lined up. We started with this keyway slot lining up with the mark on the crankcase. And before we move forward, we're going to go ahead and install the rear valve cover. And the reason being is that helps hold the camshaft down, because this back end of the cam does want to rock out as or rotate upward as you're beginning to rotate the motor, which we're fixing to do. So we're going to go ahead and at least get this put in place for now, because again, like I said a minute ago, the camshaft, or the camshaft, the lobes are actually not open right now. They're down. So that's why you can go ahead and get this started. Y'all, my battery and my drill is out right now. It's on the charger. I was ill prepared for everybody. Let's get a few of these in here. Now the other side, kind of a little bit more of a pain in the butt because of the way you have to put the cam chain on, but we'll make it work. I guess I could have broke out the plug-in drill. We're going pretty quick though. Because after we do this, after we snug this valve cover up, we're going to rotate the engine 280 degrees clockwise, and we're going to go to the other alignment mark on the block here. I'll show you all that in just a second. And then we're going to work on the front camshaft. And then once that's done, you are timed. And what I always do, I'm going to check it. I'm going to rotate it back around to the first mark. I'm going to pull this valve cover off. And I just want to make sure. A little extra work to unbolt this each time, but to me it's worth it instead of putting the damn thing in. So what we're going to do, we're going to rotate this again, this crankshaft, we're going to rotate 280 degrees. We're going to come all the way around till we get to that casting mark on this side, which if you can look, that thing, if you drew a line straight up from this mark, go right, cut right through the center of your cylinder. Okay, same with that one that's now hidden back there. You can barely see it. Yeah, that's right. That's that line right there goes up and down. That's the other casting mark. So anyway, basically it points you in the direction of each cylinder. So we're going to rotate that key around till we get right there, and then when we get on the other side, that sprocket for that intermediate shaft ought to be lined up on its mark, and that's how you kind of double check that. So let me get my flywheel and the key, little half moon key. I think they call that a Woodruff key, if I remember right. You hear that compression. Slippery. Nope. That's about it. Looks like about 1030 is where it needs to be in relation to how I'm sitting now. About 8:45 right now. Not quite. Nope. A little bit more. Okay, I think we're in line. Pretty damn close. Okay. Take that key out before we lose it. We're going to spin this motor around, let y'all get a look inside there. We're actually going to be working on this side now, so. that sucker is aligned. So that's a good indicator that we got it going correctly. So get down here. Okay, do you see the dot on the sprocket? And there's a casting mark right there where my screwdriver is, right here. That mark is in line with that dot. And that's what it's supposed to be after rotating 180 degrees. So this is the fun part. This is where it gets kind of rough, as far as, in my opinion anyway. We're gonna get that camshaft. Again, this is the front. There's no groove. No groove on here, meaning that's the front. We got our assembly lube. We're gonna position the camshaft, arrow pointing up. Same thing as we did a minute ago. These lines. I've got them horizontal right now. These need to be straight across the surface of this head, which you can't see. Okay. Oh man, all right. Feed the cam inside the chain. And the reason this one's kind of a pain in the butt is you don't have all the slack you were lucky with before. So it seriously makes for a pain in the you know what. I read multiple, you know, I've got my service manual and I go by it, but damn, they don't elaborate how much of a pain in the butt this is. At all, like seriously. Okay, I've got my chain started. I lied to y'all. We're gonna put this crankshaft, I'm sorry, flywheel back on. And we're gonna rotate clockwise as we try to get that chain on there. The whole time I'm trying to keep the cam in place. I really don't like doing it like this, but I don't know. I don't know any other way, to be honest with you. So, with that being said, we're going to rotate back around. We've already come past our other mark, so we're going to keep on going. And we're going to make sure everything lines up where it ought to. If it does, we're good. Okay, we're back on this side, so we're back lined up for the front cylinder with the key right here. Let's see what happens. hopefully that camshaft is in place. And if it is, I will rotate back to that first mark and take the valve cover off. I'm not gonna do that with y'all here. Okay, our dot's lined up. Our dot is lined up with the casting mark right here. There's the dot, and our camshaft is in line. So I'm gonna call that good. That is how you time a Kawasaki V-twin. Again, I'm most certain that this is the same on the Brute Force 750s that are in the four-wheelers, as well as the old Teryx 750. So if y'all have any comments, please post. This is my first time timing one like this completely. I have on my old Teryx. I pulled the heads off and messed with the timing at one point, but never this far down. Check out my other videos on the whole bevel gear replacement. Like I say, we're finally putting this sucker back together. And that's it. I'm gonna button this down and take a look at this one. Again, I'm gonna rotate to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and just rotate this flywheel back to where I line up with this mark over here, pull that valve cover off and double check the marks on the cam, and we're good on putting her together. I am fixing to button this one down here though. Thank y'all for watching. Have fun, good riding.